We're live. It's Thursday afternoon, almost 1:15. I think this might be a short-ish session, but we'll see how it goes. I actually have James Gipe um, up and running, and a lot of people have asked me how this helps. Um, I'm just doing a quick little reply here. Is well, he shares you out. He'll drop a link for your site so that other people can come and help you out. You make friends. The thing is that it's a community. It's a valuable community. It's a way to make friends, and I've actually have made friends that I greatly appreciate. Um, I have had other help in growing my channel, but I think you're better off doing it organically through communities, making friends, interacting with people, showing people that you care, and that's the big thing. Is supporting other people's channels, supporting other people's creative efforts. Um, Truly, nothing grows without a community. We only get so far doing things. Sorry. Speaking of community, I have my cat butting her head against me for attention. Um, that nothing is truly built on its own. And I know there has been a lot of solitary artists, and I have spent a lot of solitary pursuit of my own art, my own writing. My writing thrives in writing itself, solitary wise, but nothing truly becomes art until it's shared. Until then, it's art and potentiality. Just my view. Um, so I like sharing my work. Now I've gotten some fairly positive reviews through the years. I have a small but loyal audience of the things that I write. I've also drawn some criticism, maybe rightly so. However, it is in the very act of creating, you are going to draw both. People are going to be drawn to your work, to your words, to your painting, to your sculpting, to your origami, whatever it is, and others are going to dismiss it. What a waste of time. Learn how to spell, learn how to spell check, um, disagree with my views. It comes with the territory. It's not about growing a thick skin. I actually don't believe in a thick skin because it keeps you from feeling. What it is more about is learning how to be unattached, as Abraham Maslow said, being unattached to the good opinion of others. Um, that's what makes the difference. Being unattached to the good opinion of others, that everyone's going to have an opinion about something. But what's that based on? It's based on their thoughts. Their thoughts are just different than yours, and they're just different from somebody else who happens to like what you do. Why does that thought, seen in a negative light, have any more worth and deserve any more energy from you than any other thought? And the truth is, it doesn't. However, maybe you could take something from it. Maybe there's a valid point. I've had people point out what they consider a flaw in my thinking along, most specifically in terms of non-duality, which seems ridiculous to find too much. I think everyone feels their way through that maze of self and non-self, of emptiness and form, and no one can rightly point out and say this is the way and yours isn't it. um, However, when you look at it, um, when you look at that type of criticism without being heavily invested in my own belief of being right and then being wrong, I can see that perhaps um, some things you need to go deeper. Sometimes you need to explore things um, in a new light, or revisit things in a new light. And that's across the board. And that even includes politics, which both sides are loath to see a glimmer of positivity within the other. Um, but just like the yin yang, the two are merging, darkness and light, white and black. It's merging, and within each, this is a thing that's often left out when we talk about Taoism and yin yang. Within each of the white merging with the black, there is a dot, little singularity of both the white in the darkness and the darkness in the white, signifying that one isn't exclusively that one thing. Light only exists because of darkness. Darkness only exists because of light. I'm not talking in terms of, absolute in spiritualism, but I'm talking about the forces that make us whole. Our friend Odom Homestead is here. It says, so true. Thank you, Odom. Um, that's the important thing I think that you probably learn from working with plants and working with the earth. And we talked about this yesterday. You need sunlight to grow a plant. However, too much sunlight and without darkness, without rest, a plant's not going to grow. You need rain for a plant to grow. But you get too much rain and the plant is going to drown. I don't know if drown's the right word. But you need that balance. And here's the great thing about life. Nothing is ever truly balanced. Life is a process of balancing, that we teeter. We go this way so that we can go that way. We go that way so we can go back to this way. Sometimes we find ourselves poised on that edge, perfectly so, for an instant. That's that moment of grace that we're given. We don't achieve it. It's given. And then we teeter again. And that's how we go through life. That's how we know ourselves as being human, because we err, we make mistakes. Interesting thing is the word sin in Greek, and this was the original translation when it went from uh, Arabic, Hebrew, to original translation to Greek. The word sin simply means to miss the mark. So in that light, we all miss the mark from time to time, some more often than others. I certainly have throughout my life. However, you always allow it to find your way back. Missing a mark isn't the end of the story. It's just the end of that one particular instant. And then we move on. Tying it back to art, put your stuff out there. Whatever that art is. It could be YouTube. It could be a YouTube short. I actually wrote about that the other day, how for me doing YouTube shorts has become almost like a haiku, capturing the essence of nature as I see it through the lens of me, just for an instant, for 15 seconds, for 30 seconds, for a minute, and then offering it. Sometimes with a voiceover, most often, nature speaks for itself without my interference. I'm just fortunate to be there. I used to tell Mocha that it felt wrong for me to try to film things. The camera felt foreign, that it was interfering between me and what I was looking at itself, participating, experiencing. It took away from the experience. But now I'm starting to see things through. Mocha is at one with a camera, very focused. That's her. I think that's her true art. She's a very talented writer, but I think her true art is with that camera. And I'm starting to get it now. The camera is not feeling like an implement anymore. It's feeling like an extension, like it belongs within the moment. You Far Harper, and I do remember you from yesterday, and I remember that I still cannot pronounce your name. One time you're going to have to maybe type it out phonetically. Of course, I'll still mess that up, but I'll have a better shot. And I do apologize for not being able to pronounce your name. If it makes you feel any better, there is a long list of visitors with names that I can't pronounce. Um, I teach meditation, uh, yogic meditation, pranayama, yogic breath work, as well as yogic philosophy. And it is based on the Sanskrit language. And I can't pronounce half the things that I attempt to teach. So that's just the way it is. Your favorite Harper, and it's all right. Your favorite Harper. Now it would be your fave Harper. Your fave Harper. That's actually brilliant. um, your fave Harper. I will. Hopefully, I will remember that. Odom says I can't say most people's names myself. Yeah, it can be difficult. I do my best, but now I'm going to keep repeating your fave Harper because it actually sounds very poetic. Uh, I'm not sure how much of that is your actual name and how much is your for your channel, but it's brilliant. I absolutely like it. Um, Sometimes people go right into that perfect YouTube handle, and some of us, I was Eric McCarty for the vast majority, and then one day in a fit of inspiration, I typed out uh, just Yogi doing burpees in his basement because that's literally what my channel was, just a yogi doing burpees in his basement. Um, of course, now I'm offering more yoga stuff, more nature stuff, sharing more of my writing. So I've debated, should it be just a yogi? But I don't want to abandon the burpee title. Um, so we'll see. If anyone ever has a preference, they can let me know. Um, so yeah, the camera feels less of an uh, interference, less of something that stands between me and what I'm observing, and more of not even a tool, more of something that just belongs. It's a means of sharing. And that's been a big creative leap as far as using a camera for me, cell phone camera. So what it teaches me using a camera to get the shorts is being very, very patient to get the film. Even something as um, what might seem as simple as catching a clip of a squirrel. Um, you still have to be able to get close enough, especially with a phone, because you don't have that powerful zoom. Um, and allow the squirrel to be a squirrel, allow a plant to be a plant, allow whatever it is that you're filming to tell its own story with as little interference from me as possible. I try to do the same thing with my writing, that when I'm writing, if I hear myself writing, if I hear myself sort of dictating to the screen as I'm writing, then I know I'm heavily ego involved in what I'm doing. I'm writing for results instead of writing for the sake of writing. I'm writing for a finished product instead of being in the moment and allowing the flow of words to come through me. That inspiration is at once intimate as well as separate from the situation, meaning that it's intimate because inspiration in spirit, in breath, is who we are, what we are. In spirit, we were literally breathed into existence by the breath of God. So we can't truly, truly be separate from inspiration. However, we can block its flow through heavy ego investment and involvement, from writing to um, anything else, nature filming, YouTube shorts. We can get in our own way, to planning. If using Odom as an example, and his wisdom as a planner, he knows not to interfere. He knows exactly what to do. Take the seed, take the fertilizer, put it in the prepared earth, water it when he needs to, leave it alone when he knows that he should. And the seed has the intent to grow. A tomato seed has the intent to be a tomato. He doesn't need to do anything to make a tomato seed give tomatoes. He just nourishes the process along. Our friend Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is here. Grand day and blessings, Eric. How are you? I'm doing well. Um, she's wishing a happy Thursday and blessings to Odom. And Ufave Harper, our friend Ufave Harper, is here, Destiny. And to be honest, I'm just showing off that I can now pronounce the name. Um, and you know what? Destiny says, Happy Thursday, Ufave Harper. Good to see you again. And that is typical of Destiny, the fact that she remembers that he was here yesterday. They were here yesterday. Um, Always oppressive to have friends like that who remember those details. Um, so that's a subject that Destiny has talked of before, and that we've shared and talked about together, is intent. That the intent of tomato-ness and everything that comes from a tomato, from tomato sauce, tomato paste, ketchup, sliced tomatoes, BLT sandwiches. Um, that's all the intent within a tomato seed. We don't see it in the seed, but it's present. If that's found in a seed, imagine the intent that's found in you. It always reminds me of Alan Watts, the philosopher, the teacher, the trickster, um, who would say that, just as the ocean expresses itself in waves and a tree, branches, humans, self, they selve, we become. And we become what we must become. I forget who actually said that. Destiny said the seed is within itself, pretty hard to understand or explain. But it's one of those things that we know. We know it when we know it. When we look at a seed, we know that the potentiality of everything tomato-ish is there within the seed. If brought to light, if seen in the certain light of an eye of a planter, of a gardener, of an odom, someone who has a genius for that type of stuff. Here's the secret. What's your genius? We all have one or more or several. Why limit ourselves? The Taoist and Buddhist expression for infinite number is the 10,000 things. We are all gifted with 10,000 ways of expressing ourselves. All of it in a way of a genius. Some we take to more readily. We have an inherent attraction and pull in that direction. Others we might have to devote more time and energy, and some still we don't even recognize, or we don't recognize until late in life. Again, for me, doing the YouTube shorts has just become this huge creative passion. Not quite to the extent of my writing, but it just came out of nowhere. And I absolutely love doing it. Destiny says, God said, let the earth bring forth grass, and the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit, his kind whose seed is itself upon the earth, and it was so. Beautiful passage. And, I mentioned this before from the Talmud, above every blade of grass is an angel whispering, grow, grow, grow. And then we sort of have to wonder, If a blade of grass has an angel over it, hovering it, whispering to it to grow, how many do we have? And it's not simply saying grow, it's saying expand, be, show, show yourself. Um, I'm always struck by the story of St. Francis when he stumbled upon an almond tree that was barren in the middle of winter. And he asked the almond tree, um, show me God. And the almond tree blossomed in the midst of winter. See if I can find that entire story. I wrote about that. That was a long time ago, decades ago. Um, always loved it. Um, we'll come back to St. Francis and the almond tree. Have you guys heard Galway Kinnell's St. Francis in the Sow? An absolutely beautiful um, that sort of incorporates. Um, let's read that real quick. Give me 1 second as I pay attention to my cat who just demanded some more attention. I mentioned before my cats were late uh, adoptees. We adopted them. It's been about 2 years now. They were 10 at the time. 2 female black cats. I don't know how they ended up in a shelter, what their story was before, but the girls at the shelter was concerned that one, people don't tend to like black cats, and they seldom want to get 2 together, and that they were sisters, 10 years old, spent their entire life together, and she was worried they'd be separated. So of course they told this to Mocha, and of course Mocha told it to me, and I said, well, it means I got to get him. I got to bring him home. You don't hear something like that and just shrug your shoulders. When you hear something like that, you're literally given a responsibility. Um, so that's the story of my cat, who has turned out to be very demanding, but very loving as well. Destiny says, I love this quote you speak so much of. Every blade of grass has its angel that bends over it and whispers, grow, grow. Yeah, Destiny says, keep sharing, Eric. There is a deep message in those words. I agree. I can't help but share them because they're so meaningful for me. And I know there's someone who might stumble upon our conversation sometime, Destiny, um, who is maybe feeling that um, they're not on the right path, or that their work doesn't have any meaning or value, or maybe their entire life doesn't have any meaning or value. Um, and then realizing again that if a blade of grass has an angel over it whispering it to grow, then who knows? Maybe we have infinite angels above us whispering. So this is from Galway Kinnell, St. Francis and the Sow. And then I'll go back and find the story of St. Francis and the almond tree. Hopefully I can do it justice in reading it. The bud stands for all things, even for those things that don't flower. For everything flowers from within, of self-blessing. Through sometimes it is necessary to reteach a thing its loveliness, to put a hand on a brow of the flower and retell it in words and in touch it is lovely, until it flowers again from within, of blessing, as St. Francis put his hand on the creased forehead of the sow and told her in words and in touch, blessings of earth, and the sow began remembering all down her thick length, from the earthen snout all the way through the fodder and slop to the spiritual curl of its tail, from the hard spininess spiked out from the spine, down through the greater broken heart to the sheer blue milk and dreaminess spurting and shuddering from the 14 teats, from the 14 mouths, sucking and blowing beneath them, the long, perfect loveliness of Sal. Leaves me in silence after I read that. Just for that moment. No words rush to the mind. There's just ah, this long sigh, this long letting out the breath and letting that beauty. From the beginning, and this, as I was reading it, reminded me of Odom, um, as he might see a plant. The bud stands for all things, even for things that don't flower. For everything flowers from within of self-blessing. For sometimes it's necessary to reteach a thing its loveliness, to put a hand on its brow with a flower, and retell it in words and in touch it is lovely, until it flowers again from within of self-blessing. As St. Francis put his hand on the creased forehead of the sow, and told her in words and in touch blessings of earth on the sow, and the sow began remembering all the way down her thick length, from the earthen snout all the way through the fodder and stop to its spiritual curl of the till, from the hard spininess spiked out from the spine, down through that great broken heart, to the sheer blue milk and dreaminess spouting and shuddering, from the 14 teats into the 14 mouths sucking and blowing beneath them, the long, perfect loveliness of Sal. Had to read it again. I didn't intend on reading it again, but I had to read it again. If a lovelier thing has ever been written, lovelier, I don't know it. That's for sure. Galway Kennel. Let's see. So St. Francis on the Almond Tree originally, I believe, came from Greek author, and I remember his name, but I can't pronounce his name. He wrote Zorba the Greek. He wrote a wonderful fictional biography of St. Francis, and he told the story. And here it is, or at least a version of it. One day, while doing walking meditation in his garden, St. Francis of Assisi saw a bare almond tree. He approached the almond tree, and as he practiced breathing in and out, asked the almond tree to tell him about God. Suddenly, the almond tree was covered with blossoms. That was actually from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen master, who I guess it's been about 2 years since he passed away. A very influential teacher for me through the years. Another way of, I actually wrote about that again several years ago, because at the same time, when you say to a barren almond tree, speak to me of God, show me God, and the tree blossoms, you could just as easily see a blossoming almond tree and say, speak to me of God, and all of a sudden the leaves are falling as if in autumn, because God is in all things, in all way, in every view, just as much in the barren tree, in the barren branches of winter, as in the blossoming branches of spring. We often leave that out because we only want the blossoming. We only want the springtime of our life. We only want the loveliness. And yet, the way of God presents us life, and life has winter, the depth of winter. It has barren branches, and it has the flowering bud. Both the ways of God. And when we can see that, then we truly appreciate how we navigate through life. The version of the Tao Te Ching that we have lightness and we have darkness, and the two aren't separate. from each other. Our friend, it is what it is. Lewis is here. Good morning, YouTube family. Blessings to all. Lewis, how are you? Um, you know what? I think it is what it is. Some of the things that we've been talking about, Lewis, is the potentiality of how we can all blossom from where we are in whatever way we're meant to, with the right nourishment of the mind, of the spirit. Um, and it's really what you went through with your comeback. If you had not been had that proper, I don't want to say state of mind, but the state of heart that you knew from in the depth of the pain that you were experiencing, that in a few months you were still going to be hitting the burpee mat, doing your reps for a purpose, help other people, to show people that they can overcome their own pain. Um, that's the same as what we were talking about here with reminding ourselves who and what we are in order so we can be who and what we are. As Galway Cannell said, reteaching ourselves the loveliness of who and what we are. Lewis says he's doing great, and how are you? Um, I'm doing pretty well too, actually. Um, enjoying this discussion. Anytime I get to hit the Google machine and bring up some great poets, um, is a good discussion. Um, and I just read one of my all-time favorite poems. I first read that years and years ago from, now I'm blanking on his first name. His last name is Hudson, Roger Hudson. He writes these wonderful little books, 10 poems to change your life, 10 poems to uh, enrich the spirit, 10, 10 poems for the grieving heart. And each one is just the perfect poem for the occasion. And you read it and you think what I just said about Galway Canal, nothing ever can be lovelier than what I just read. And then you read the next one and you go, nothing ever could be lovelier than I just read. And the truth is, it can't. Things can be just as lovely, but man, when you read those beautiful words, there's nothing lovelier. My whole goal when I'm writing is one line. If I can write one line that I'm satisfied with its beauty and I can put it out there in the world, every other line supporting it, I'm happy. I did something. It's not an accomplishment, it's an allowing. I allowed inspiration to whisper for me. I allowed the universe to express itself through me. I allowed words to simply be without my ego interference. Um, let's see, am I missing some people? Bonnie B, hello everyone. Hello Bonnie, how are you? Lewis says, it was painful for sure, Eric, but I hope what people saw lifted them in some kind of way. It did, for sure. Because anything is possible through God, and I agree 100%. You know, I consider myself a fairly motivated person. I don't need a whole lot of outside stimulation to get me to do things. However, watching you one rep at a time, that definitely got to me. That definitely inspired me. Evan S says, you have a great mind. Thank you. I sort of want to say we all do. It's just a matter of listening, getting out of my own way, stop thinking that I have the answers to anything whatsoever, that I have any wisdom to share. That's my own. if that makes sense. I don't have any wisdom of my own to share with anyone. However, um, I can certainly be a conduit between wisdom itself and other people, as everyone here in this chat uh, is as well, and has been. I certainly, as I just mentioned to Lewis, have drawn inspiration from him. Uh, I draw great joy from watching Destiny and everything she does. The joy that she brings to what she does is contagious, and I always walk away from her channel somewhat a better human being than when I first clicked on it. Um, when I watch Odom and his passion to grow things, um, never ceases. Not just inspired me, but amazes me. Um, being a steward of the earth, such a wonderful gift to have, and that um, I always hope that Odom truly knows what a gift that is, and I believe he does. Of course, we all have doubts about our gifts. Um, Evan says that he's good. Uh, let's see. Evan says you seem like you've balanced mind, body, and soul. How did you get there? You know what? We were talking about balancing. I was talking about it with Odom when he first came in. That I don't think I've ever been balanced, but I am in process of balancing all the time. Sometimes I shift a little too far into the physical. Sometimes, most of the time, I shift a little too far into the um, spiritual. I can get pretty far out. I can get deep down within myself that I have a hard time uh, coming out and wanting. I've never had a hard time functioning in the world, but sometimes I've had a hard time wanting to function in the world, if that makes sense. Um, and so I think that's key, is knowing that I'm balancing, which means that um, all mistakes are allowed. When you're balancing, you can't go wrong. You're supposed to teeter. You're supposed to lean too far in one way, and you're supposed to overcompensate and go in the other. And in between the two, you find yourself poised. Um, it's the balancing exercises, the balancing asanas of yoga, particularly doing tree. Um, when I find I got that perfect moment of poise, but it might only last for a breath. And then I go again. It's okay to fall. It's perfectly okay to fall. Um, the key is, one, as I mentioned before when we were talking about art, particularly writing, but art in general, to be unattached from, as Abraham Maslow said, unattached from the good opinion of others. You're not writing to please anyone, including yourself. You're writing because you have no choice but to write. You're a writer. You have no choice but to dance on a treadmill because your heart is one of a dancer. You have no choice but to do burpees, to put your fingers in the earth, to paint a picture, to take a photograph, to have a conversation on um, YouTube. Or as Krishnamurti would say, choiceless awareness. There's no choice. It might seem like I have a choice coming here to speak on YouTube, but it wasn't a conscious choice. It was pulled. I was pulled in that direction because that's what spirit says. That's what inspiration says. Go here. And through life, you learn to go here. And what's the worst that can happen? I make a fool of myself talking too long on YouTube. I have done much worse. Um, trust me on that. Uh, I'm almost beyond embarrassment. Um, I survived the 80s. It doesn't, you'd have very few. I survived a childhood in the 70s. Um, there's very few more embarrassing things than having your mom give you a haircut in 1970 something and sending you to school wearing multicolored pants. In the entire 70s was an embarrassing generation to be a kid. Um, and the 80s didn't get much better, except for the fact that we thought we were cool when we were doing it. Um, and of course, I was a little out of touch in the 80s. I was following the Grateful Dead. I was a 1980s hippie, following the Grateful Dead and doing stuff that's better not spoken of. Uh, it is what it is. Says I appreciate that, Eric, and I appreciate um, the fact that you did it because you had an easy out. Hey, I'm going to take this year off. I hurt myself. I know I come back every time this year, um, but this was a pretty serious injury, and I'm going to lay low. Instead, you doubled down and you started slow, and you called yourself out. You said, "Hey guys, this isn't going to be easy. These reps are going to suck. They're going to hurt. They're not going to be pretty. They're not. Don't expect Mr. Five Pump right now because Mr. Five Pump doesn't exist. But the seed of Mr. Five Pump is in here, is in my heart, and each rep nourishes it, brings it out, calls to it. One rep at a time, I will be there again, and now you are, and beyond. Um, Destiny says, Odom's Home said, you have been blessed to be a farmer and to till the land. Your hands are rich and blessed, just like the potter's hand and the clay. Beautiful analogy, and I agree 100%. Evan S. says, where are you from? Well, I was born in Pennsylvania, uh, outside of Pittsburgh, McKeesport, which is considered now to be one of the worst places to live in the United States. Um, and my family is from northern Pennsylvania, back in the mountains. Absolutely nothing up there, but it's beautiful. One stoplight in the whole county, still to this day. And then when I was young, though, we moved to Columbia, Maryland, which is between Baltimore and DC, and it is the most beautiful area. I've lived here since I think 1970. I was 4 or 5 years old when we moved here, um, and it's a planned city, and it's based on spiritual concepts of community, everyone coming together, interfaith centers instead of churches, um, and integrated areas in the 60s and 70s when in this county, which was a very rural county back then, integration was very slow in coming. Um, and it's just flourished. Very beautiful green spaces, miles of bike paths and trails, uh, beautiful area. Absolutely loved growing up here. It was a unique experience. Home of Meriwether Post Pavilion, where in 1960s, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Janis Joplin, they all played. Still here. One of the best places in the world to see a Grateful Dead concert. Um, Columbia is a beautiful city. Suburbs. Suburban city. Um, I liken it to a town more than anything. So, all right, guys, it's coming up on 2. It's time for my second meditation for the day. This has been a really fun conversation. I appreciate everyone stopping in. Um, I'm really appreciative that I learned how to say "you Fave Harper." Um, I should write that down so I don't forget how to say it. But hopefully, as soon as I see it, I will remember. I appreciate every single one of you being here. Um, Honestly and literally, it means a lot to have you guys join me. Um, so, guys, I'll be back usually like 5:15ish. I do. I go live to read my work, but you know what? I'm thinking about reading some other people's works. If there's a favorite poet, favorite spiritual passage, a favorite whatever, that you think I should read, let me know. Today I stumbled on Galway Kinnell's beautiful poem, and maybe I'll read that again, although I have a few things that I wrote that I have in mind. But you know what? I'm open for everything. Let me know. I'm not a great reader publicly, but you know what? When I read that Galway Kinnell, it expanded my heart to the point it doesn't matter if I'm good or not. I absolutely loved reading it out loud and sharing it with you guys. So again, you guys have a great day. Come visit me later tonight, and I'll see you then if you come here.